Welcome everyone to the Expert Focus piece for Chambers and Partners 2023. Today, I'll be talking to José Antonio Arochi and Adrián Martínez about advertising practices in Mexico. José Antonio, could you talk about the authorities involved in the advertising practices in Mexico?
Thank you very much for the invitation, Sebas. Well, in Mexico, it's important to mention that we have many authorities that regulate advertising matters in a day-by-day. We have to start, obviously, with COFEPRIS, which is the Mexican FDA, that a lot of people do not understand why the authority regulating sanitary and regulatory issues regulates certain advertising matters, but there is an area or a department at the Mexican FDA, which is COFEPRIS, that regulates publicity for certain products. Then we have obviously the Mexican PTO that regulates unlawful competition issues, everything regarding to trademarks, copyrights, patents. It's important to mention that the Mexican PTO is the first instance regarding litigation in Mexico. You don't go directly to federal court like in the United States. Everything starts in the administrative authority regarding IP matters. Obviously, we can go to civil courts where there is moral damage issues. Then also we can do criminal matters in a day-by-day regarding advertising. And I think that the most important authority that regulates advertising matters is Profeco, which Profeco is the Mexican FTC, and it regulates the day-by-day of advertising and why advertising shouldn't be misleading. I think, Adrián, you can tell us a little bit about what is Profeco so people know a little bit about what it is and what it regulates.
Exactly, like José mentioned, Profeco is the most important and the broadest authority regarding advertising matters. The thing about advertising is that it's not regulated in a single law or a single regulation body, but it's usually divided into many laws and many different regulations, which may vary depending on the specific product you are doing or the specific market in which you are practicing. But Profeco is important because they usually try to take two things into consideration: that consumers receive verifiable, truthful information about the products or services they are obtaining, and also that any promotions or any kind of dynamic in which they may obtain some benefits is also clearly explained to them, in terms that can be easy to understand. So because these rules usually apply to the commercialization of every kind of product, Profeco is or may be involved in any kind of industry. And particularly right now, Profeco is creating some specific regulation, or has created some specific regulations for influencers, which was published in August this year, and it's a very accessible, easy for the consumer to read document, which does not have the formal manner of a law, but instead is like a PowerPoint presentation in which they go over the specific agents that are involved in these influencers, what is advertising, what kind of practices you can and can do, and particularly if you are being paid by a company to do some paid content or advertising for a product, you must disclose that information to your users so that they are not biased or they understand that your opinion may not be completely objective.
I think it's important for what Adrián is mentioning. This guidebook for influencer is not binding. So I think it's going to be important to see how the Mexican Consumer Protection, which is Profeco, will be enforcing the day-by-day of this guidebook.
And considering that this new document is not binding, what would you recommend to the clients and to how to act, how to work differently from what they have done before with this new document by Profeco?
I would take in consideration this guidebook. I would follow the guidebook at the end because we don't know how Profeco will be enforcing this particular or for those people that are publicitating in a day-by-day without the guidebook, how maybe it will affect them. Last week we had a new case which Profeco is enforcing in a way, or it's asking for some information regarding the use of or how they publicize an influencer, and I think it's important to see how it's resolved because I think it's going to be a precedent for here to what happens regarding this guidebook. I don't know what you think.
I think that it's very important to follow them because even if they are not binding in a vacuum, they must be interpreted in accordance with the law. So what they're trying to do with these guidelines is to broaden the scope of application of the law and saying, okay, these cases may be specific cases in which information presented to consumers is either misleading or biased or even false. And if you are withholding information, for example, if you are not disclosing that you are a paid content creator, that may lead to essentially misleading the public. So it's going to be interesting to see how Profeco will, from a technical point of view, how they manage to interpret both of these laws simultaneously, or the guidelines and the law. But in the end, this guideline is rooted in the essence of the law of providing accurate information to the consumer, and so it will definitely see a large number of cases, or a significant number of cases, in which new practices such as influencers or advertising in social media is now more regulated by Mexican authorities.
Thank you, Adrián. Thank you, José Antonio.
Thank you very much, Sebastian.
And thank you to all the Chambers and Partners audience for watching us.